Peter, I think we're good to go now. Did we just lost Peter Rollberg? Hello, everybody. Welcome to the PONAS conference. We just lost our Associate Dean for Research and Faculty, Peter Rollberg, who will come back. Is here.
I think he's back now.
Peter. Don't see him. Peter, can you hear me? I don't see you if you want to begin. Sorry, we are trying to unmute. Should arrive very soon. Sorry for that. It's good to see everybody. We are back in office at least. So the conference is online, but the whole team is here at the office. So it's a beginning. Okay, so it seems we have difficulties. I see Peter in the listed there, but I don't know why we cannot have him speaking. So let me begin. Hopefully you will be able to say a few words later. It's great to see all of you. Welcome. My name is Marlène Laruelle. I'm the director of the Institute for European Russian Eurasian Studies and also the co-director of PONAS Eurasia with my colleagues Henry Hale. It's good to see all of you. As you know, PONAS is a network of scholars from North America and Eurasia working on security and politics funded by the Carnegie Corporation of New York. And we are very grateful to Carnegie for their renewed support for 2 more years. We were hoping to be in person, of course, but we are still online. But as I was telling you, at least the team is here at GW, each of us in our office. So it's the beginning. This is our classic fall policy conference looking at foreign relations, US-Russia relations, US policy toward Eurasia, Russian military and defense policy, and kind of more broad geopolitical patterns in Eurasia. Our spring policy conference that we will be organizing in April 2022 will be looking more at domestic evolution, and hopefully we will be in person this time. So let me give you a few kind of housekeeping information. We are together until 4 p.m. this afternoon, DC time, 11 p.m. for Russia. We have 4 time slots and 5 panels, right? So there is only a panel after lunchtime that has where you have 2 breakout sessions. So you stay on the same Zoom link the whole day. But at 1:15 p.m. US time, if you want to join the panel 3B on conflict, you will have to click on the other Zoom links that you have on your program to join that breakout session. Otherwise, the whole other 4 panels stay on the same Zoom links. We will do short breaks between each session to have the new panels preparing itself, like 10-15 minutes for lunch or dinner, depending on where you are. We plan for a little bit longer break. Each panelist for each panel will have about 8 minutes to present their research, and then memo. The discussant will have about 10 minutes total to discuss all the presentation, and then each chair will moderate the Q&A. We invite you to ask questions in the chat, but each chair can decide, depending on the time left, to also give the floor directly to you in the room, because of course the more interaction, the better. So let me now move to the first panel on US-Russia relations. Of course, a really key important topic. We have 4 speakers today. We were planning to have 5, but one of them had to cancel last minute, unfortunately. But so we will have with us today Peter Rutland, who is the Colin and Nancy Campbell Professors in Global Issues and Democratic Thought in the Government Department at Wesleyan University, discussing US-Russia relations, 2 blind men in a dark room. Then we will have Paulina Sinowiec, who is Associate Professor in the Faculty of International Relations and Head of the Odessa Center for Non-Proliferation at the Odessa National University in Ukraine, discussing Russia's foreign and security policy, the evolution of the escalation strategy. Then we will have Adam Stulberg, who is the Samnon Professor and Chair of the Samnon School of International Affairs at the Georgia Institute of Technology, discussing sanction and war, contending Western Russian approaches and prospects for strategic stability. And we will have Mikhail Troitsky, who is Associate Professor and Dean of the School of Government and International Affairs at the Moscow State Institute of International Relations. And last but not least, our discussant for this first panel is William Pomerantz, Deputy Director of the Wilson Center's Kennan Institute. So once again, welcome everybody. Great to see all of you. And let's begin our first panel by giving the floor to Peter Rutland.
Okay, thanks everybody for tuning in, and thanks to Marlene and Henry for setting this up. I'm sure we're all a bit zoomed out by now after 18 months of Zooming, but we're still in this mode. So this paper is very preliminary. It's a kind of first draft of history, and I just thought it would be useful to step back and look at the state of US-Russian relations, 9 months in to the Biden administration, and I'm focusing on the Russian side in this dual relationship. And it's a cliche that Russians tend to be pessimists and Americans tend to be optimists, that for Americans, it's like looking for the ways that things can get better. And for Russians, it's like looking at all the ways things can get worse. But it strikes me that in the past year, that asymmetry is balanced out. And there are grounds, I'm afraid, for deep pessimism on the American side, and possibly some cautious optimism on the Russian side. So when President Biden took office, I think there's a consensus that relations were at an all-time low because of the Russiagate and the Democrats' constant kind of focusing on the role of Russia in the Trump presidency, which culminated in the impeachment, the first impeachment trial, and then the deteriorating state of human rights in Russia, the Navalny arrest, President Biden's killer comment in the Stephanopoulos interview, and then a continued drip of disturbing information about Russian hacking activities, hacking also federal agencies and commercial organizations. Now, on the Russian side, there's more grounds for confidence. Putin's military adventurism has been working in terms of Russia's national interests in Georgia, Ukraine, and Syria. The debacle of the Trump presidency and the January 6th uprising seriously damaged US credibility on the global stage. And Russia's partnership with China gives it a kind of strategic depth and possibly a solution to its economic stagnation issues. US policy arguably still hasn't settled into a consistent pattern. A strong theme is a kind of neo-isolationist focus on rebuilding America, Yet at the same time, there's the old rhetoric of commitment to global human rights is still deployed, and also a new focus on military containment of China goes against the isolationist themes, although, of course, shutting China out of the US economy is consistent with that containment philosophy. Now, funnily enough, I think when I started out doing this, I didn't know what I was going to find, and I was surprised to the extent to which there was kind of a cautious optimism that each side seemed curious about the other and somewhat anxious and uncertain about how things were going to play out. So I think there was kind of more, not optimism, but more openness than I had anticipated, given that relations were at an all-time low. And so partly it's just the kind of the dead cat bounce thing, that relations were so bad they could only go up. So we did see a swift extension of the New START treaty, which was a positive sign. But things then went downhill with the sentencing of Navalny, new information about the SolarWinds hacking, and new sanctions from the US, and then counter sanctions from the Russians. So things were heading down again in March, April. But then the optimism kind of came back with the Geneva summit, and each side agreed to have the summit, and generally kind of backed off from criticizing each other. And so there was a kind of show, at least a performance of cooperation and friendship and cautious grounds for progress. Although when it came down to it, there was no joint statement, and nothing of substance seems to have been agreed, except for ambassadors returning and some meetings taking place. Now, to try to ground these comments in some modest empirical project, working with a young colleague, Dmytro Babkanak, we did a kind of qualitative content analysis of Russian media over the month before and the month after the Geneva summit, and found, again, this was kind of surprising to me, unexpected, that the media had kind of backed off much of its red blood, red meat attacks on the US around the summit, and that there was quite a focus on emphasis on grounds for cooperation, kind of mutual recognition, mutual interests. At the same time, the question of Russian red lines was coming up, and also the idea of the US as a threat to Russian political stability and interests in neighboring regions was also kind of not too far hidden beneath the surface. Less clear was the extent to which Russia thinks that the US really is in retreat